over the course of my undergrad degree, I had 3 official internships. For one of them, I got a soft return offer of like, hey, when we're hiring, we'll let you know, which they did. For another one, I got straight up rejected. And then for the third one, I got a full-time job offer halfway through the internship, and that ultimately became the job that I still work to this day, right? So at this point, I've seen both the positive and negative outcomes of internships in terms of return offers. And so I wanted to share what I think are the 2 main levers that will move the needle towards getting that return offer we want. So if you're working in an internship at a company that you really care about, that you're passionate about, that you want to work for when you get out of school, this is the video for you. So if you didn't know, I'm the Unhinged Engineer. I make professional development content for people in software engineering, aerospace engineering, AI, ML. We just work on cool stuff and want to lead an awesome career. So if that's something you're interested in, this is also a video for you. But yeah, let's get right into it. I know I said this would be simple, but considering we're engineers, I think math should be in the scope of simple. And so I'm going to draw like a really basic plot that illustrates these 2 points. So on the x-axis, we have time, and on the y-axis, we have percentage FTE. And FTE stands for full-time engineer, right? And I'm referring to productivity here. So 100% FTE is the average performance of a person that they have on the payroll full-time, like salaried engineer. So obviously there's some bell curve here in terms of the most productive and least productive engineers, but this is the average expectation of someone that they've hired, okay? And even though we're interns, and hopefully, there's a little bit of grace regarding interns and people still in school, if we're trying to convert from intern to full-time, this is the bar against which we're measured, right? And it's important to recognize this. Even though as an intern, the cost of our employment is way lower than the cost of a full-time engineer, right? And so making that transition is a big risk for them. Like they're increasing the cost of us, and they don't know how productive we are until the end of the internship or some point, right? And so over the course of our internship, our productivity is going to look something like this, just as an argument, right? And so by the end of it, let's just say the average intern is like close to, hopefully, someone that they would hire full-time, but maybe not peak productivity. And so on this plot we have here, there's 2 quantities we care about. The first one, steady state productivity. And it's the gap, positive or negative, between where we're performing by the end of the internship and where they expect a full-time engineer to be, right? So like in this example, we're close to what a full-time engineer would be, but not quite. And this is like within bounds. It's like within a standard deviation of what they're looking for. We could wind up here and be like exactly average, or we could really crush it and be there, right? Like we're a top performer even when compared to full-time engineers, despite just being an intern. And this happens depending on the environment that you're working for, right? And so in general, we want this number to be as big and positive as possible, right? We want to be above the average. But, like within some bounds, people here can expect to at least be in the running, right? Like even this person on the bottom, let's just say as an example, they've gotten an internship's worth of on-the-job training, right? Hopefully they've built some rapport with the people they're going to work for. And so it may be worth it for them to hire you versus somebody random, right? Better the devil you know than the devil you don't. So if they know that you can work within the bounds that they're looking for an engineer, then they might hire you, even though you're below average, right? And hopefully you grow and you ascend the ranks there, and then a few years in, you're like the top guy, right? Or a few months in, hopefully. But if you wind up like this, or, just terrible, and you're outside of these bounds, then why would they hire you? Because they could go out and find somebody who's going to perform better, even like their first day, right? So you really want to be like within the ballpark of the full-time engineers that you're exposed to when you work there. And you can see like the level that they work at, okay? That's number 1. Number 2 is our rise time. And this is like, in my mind, how quickly we get to some percentage of that peak productivity that we're going to hit. Let's say like this is our peak productivity. Should actually move this line a little bit. That's like right here, right? So we hit that peak productivity, in this case is about like halfway down the x-axis, right? So this is like halfway through. We could hit that peak productivity at this point, we could hit it at this point, right? So now we have variation in the x as opposed to variation in the y here, right? And so all I'm trying to get at is that we want to hit peak productivity as quickly as possible and also as autonomously as possible. So this is where stuff that I talked about in my last video comes in, about like knowing software tools that you're going to be expected to know. Knowing the kinds of tools that you need, the kinds of applications you're going to be working on, the kinds of expectations that people are going to have. Knowing that stuff, like towards the beginning or even ahead of time, can really factor into you becoming a fully contributing member of the team as early as possible, okay? So we want this rise time to be as close to 0 as possible, right? This person shows up, sets up all their shit day one, and gets right to contributing and asking the hard questions about what they're actually there to do, the project they're there to work on. This person asks how to install VS Code on the first day. Be this person, not this person, okay? So, yeah, in general, just to recap the math here before I talk about my internships as an example, we've got our final state, how we compare to other full-time engineers, and then we've got, draw it here, rise time. How long it takes us to get to that steady state, okay? By the way, Easter egg, if you're a control systems engineer, this should all look very familiar, right? But yeah, just good mathematical framework to use for this. This is steady state, and this is rise time. So now, to A, illustrate these points, and B, also illustrate that none of these are foolproof and none of them are a guarantee that we get what we want, I'm going to talk about the internship I got accepted from and the internship I got rejected from, right? So this is A, this is B. Which one do you think I got the job from? It's kind of hard to tell because this one's rise time is a lot quicker, but this one I wound up being, a better fit for the job at the end. The answer is this one. This is choice B. Should have drawn it in blue. B is the one that I got the job from, right? Let's talk about A first. So with A, I was more familiar with what I was going to be expected to do. I came in guns blazing and like set up all my stuff on my own and tried to get right to what I was working on. But, to be honest, I wasn't a perfect fit for the job. There were multiple reasons for that I could talk about in another video, but my final performance just was lower than they were looking for. Say they were looking for here, or they were looking for here. I really don't know, and I never will. And that's okay, right? I wasn't at the level that they were looking for a full-time engineer at that team, and I didn't get the offer, right? So I got rejected. That's just the way it goes, right? Now this one was different. I had a much slower ramp-up time because it was stuff that I was much less familiar with, right? This was aerospace engineering, which is what I studied in school, and this was like high-performance software engineering for drones and computer vision and stuff, which is more outside my comfort zone. So it took me longer to hit the productivity that they wanted, right? But I was diligent about it. I worked really hard. I had open communication with the people I was working for. And by the end, I not only exceeded their internship expectations, but I actually produced for them research at like the full-time level. And I know that because they had me present it to the rest of the organization representing our lab, despite just being an intern, right? So I know that that was valuable work for them. And especially now in hindsight, working for them full-time, I know how relevant it was, which I didn't even know at the time. So by the end of it, I was crushing it, basically, and I worked really hard, and that was intentional. And part of why I got to that point was because right halfway through the internship, they offered me the job, right? So I was here at like half T. I was here, and I don't know, maybe they just liked me, or they could see the trajectory I was on, or was really coachable and learning fast. For whatever reason, they offered me the job here, and then at that point, once I knew I was going to work for them full time, I really wanted to make a good impression and like crush it. So I pushed it to the max, right? So this was the happy ending. This was the one I got accepted at. So yeah, so my point with these quantities here is like they're not foolproof, they're not guaranteed, but in general, they're the main levers that will determine whether or not we get the return offer that we want. So yeah, in conclusion, if you want to get a full-time offer at your internship employer, get as close to this full-time benchmark not the intern benchmark, the full-time benchmark mark as possible, and even exceed it if you can, and get there really quickly. Get there as quickly as possible and as autonomously as possible. Don't nag the crap out of the full-time people, because then even if your rise time is quicker, you're making them less productive, right? They don't want that. Yeah, cool. So like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm the Unhinged Engineer. I make professional content for people in software engineering, AI/ML, autonomous vehicles, and aerospace engineering. Basically, if you want to build cool stuff and lead an awesome career, this is the channel for you. And also, I'm vlogging my grad school journey. I'm going to Georgia Tech at night while working full time, so there's definitely some ups and downs there. If you're interested in that journey, follow along. So thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you in the next video.